Today we are going to complete Unit 6, the second part of Lesson 6. And everything that we talk about today has to do with numbers or integers, okay? Now, the examples that I already have here on the screen are all about consecutive numbers. Remember, numbers that go in order, like 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Down here, I have the reminder for consecutive even and consecutive odd. So remember, odd numbers would be like 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 2 more is how I get the 4, would be 7, okay? So you add by 2s for both evens and odds. So let's go ahead and we're going to complete 2 or 3 of these examples before we move on to one other example I want to show you that has to do with numbers, okay? So let me find a spot to put my coffee. Okay, so number 1, I'm going to zoom in here. The product of 2 positive consecutive integers is 56. So we did problems like this earlier in the year. The only difference was instead of the word product, we were previously working with like the sum of 2 positive consecutive integers, okay? Now we're switching that to products, which is multiplication. So let's let the first number be our x, okay? And then the second consecutive number, because it is just consecutive, so consecutive, I will do x plus 1. All right, and now I'm ready to set up the equation. It said that the product of these two numbers is 56. So let's do x times x plus 1 equals 56. I got that from the rest of the word problem. Okay, and now my task is to find the two integers. So let's go ahead and simplify our equation by distributing first. X squared plus 1x equals 56. Now, as soon as I see an x squared, I need to be certain that I solve it equal to 0. In order to solve a quadratic function, it has to be equal to 0. So I'm going to need to go ahead and move this 56 over to the other side. So subtract this 56, and there are no like terms to combine it with. So I just have x squared plus 1x minus 56 equals 0. Okay, and now I am ready to factor this down. So the negative 56 is going to go on top. The 1 will go on bottom. Okay, so two numbers that multiply together to give me 56. I'm thinking 7 times 8. And then I would have to do 8 minus 7 in order to get me to the positive 1. Okay, and so which one of these two answers would come out to a positive solution once I applied the zero product property? And it would be this negative 1. X equals positive 7. So why did I not want to use a negative solution here? Okay, so it's in the instructions, but it's very well disguised. This says the product of two positive consecutive integers. If they had said negative there, then I would have used x equals negative 8. Okay, so x equals 7 So the next number, when I add 1 to that, is 8. So my two integers are 7 and 8. And that's the final answer to this problem. Okay? All right. Let's look at example number 11. I'm just going to scooch this up. Okay, this is going to be a little more complex. Okay, we're going to find two consecutive odd integers such that the square of the first added to 3 times the second is 24. So they have made this a little more difficult. Okay, so let's start by setting this up. Now my first number is going to equal x because your first number when you have problems like this always equals x. But now they want me to pay attention. Consecutive odd integers. So under my consecutive even and odd list, the next number would be x plus 2. So x plus 2. Okay? And now I'm ready to set up the equation. So let's go through this very carefully. The square of the first number. The square of the first number. So I'm going to take the first number, which is x, and then I'm going to square it. Okay. Added, so I'm going to use a different color now, added to 3 times the second number. So 3 times the second number. So I'm going to take a 3 and multiply that by the second number, which was x plus 2. And then it says that that means equals to 24. All right, so I have set up my problem. I tried to color code every little thing I did, okay, so that you could see how I've translated these words into my equation. Now I am ready to solve this. So let's go ahead and I have a parenthesis, so I need to distribute 3x plus 2, bring down the x squared and the positive, and that equals 24. Now I need to go ahead and subtract 24 from both sides, and so that way this is equal to 0. And let's simplify. X squared plus 3x, 2 minus 24 is a negative 22. All right. Now I am ready to do the X puzzle and to factor this. So I need to put, let's see. Oops, I made a mistake. Let me go back and fix this. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 2 is 6. So 6 minus 24 gives me a negative 18. There we go. So it's a negative 18. So now when I put this into my X puzzle, the negative 18 is what goes on top. 3 goes on the bottom. Let's see. 6 times 3 is 18. And then if I did 6 minus 3, I'd get to this positive 3 on bottom. So my two factors are x plus 6 and x minus 3. All right, and so now let's go ahead and each of these factors, if I applied the zero product property, this would be x equals negative 6, x equals positive 3. Okay, so I'm going to go back up to my word problem and I'm going to find the key word that's going to help me know which of these two numbers is the correct solution. Okay, find two positive. Okay, so they want me to use positive. So my first number is x, which will equal 3. My second number is x plus 2. So the next number in line would be 5. And I crossed this solution out because I didn't need it. All right, so my two numbers are 3 and 5. Great job. Let's see. Let's do this number 12 here as well, right next to it. Okay. So I wanted to do this one because it gives you an example of 3 consecutive integers, okay? So let's go back to translating. Find 3 consecutive integers. So consecutive. So I'm just going to have x, x plus 1, and x plus 2. Okay? Those are my 3 numbers. And now I'm going to go ahead and start this translating such that the product of the second integer and the third integer. So this is second and this is third. So I need to get the product of these two numbers. So with product, let's go ahead and use our parentheses. And then I'm going to plug in the numbers. X plus 1, x plus 2. And that is, so equals 72. Okay, good. Now I'm ready to simplify this. So I'm going to use either FOIL or box method. I know that it's been just a little while, so let me review the box method for some of you. So you just create a 4x4. It's also called the area model is the more appropriate word. Okay. X plus 1 goes on top, x plus 2 down the side. So I have x times x is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. 2 times x is 2x. And 2 times 1 is 1. All right, and now I am ready to combine any like terms, which I do see diagonally. I have an x and I have a 2x, and that's going to give me 3x. So now let's bring it all down and write it together. X squared plus 3x plus 1. I'm sorry, plus 2 equals 72. Okay. Now, because I have an x squared term, in order to solve this, I need to set it equal to 0. So let's move this 72 over, minus 72 from both sides. And that will give me a negative 70, all right, plus 3x, and then x squared. And now I am ready to solve this. So let's do my x puzzle. Negative 70 in the top, 3 in the bottom. And I am thinking, let's see, 10 times 7 is an easy way to get to 70. And then if I subtract, let's subtract the 7, and that'll get me to a positive 3. So my two solutions are x plus 10 and x minus 7. And then if I apply the zero product property, I have x equals negative 10, x equals positive 7. So now I'm going to go back up and reread my word problem and see which of these two solutions that I need. So find 3 positive consecutive integers. So my numbers will be 7. These were consecutive. So 7, 8, and then 9. Those are my 3 numbers. All right, very good. So these all just deal with numbers, but these happen to be specific numbers that go in order. I want to show you one additional example that you will see frequently. It still has to do with numbers, and it's going to be done in a similar way. The translating process is just a little bit different, okay? So let me zoom out. So this is actually not on that sheet of notes that you could print if you have a printer. This is actually just something I wrote on a separate sheet of paper this morning, okay? So, a little bit more. Okay, this says Josh is 2 years older than Sean. Okay, so if you remember way back when we had a problem like this, I told you you have two pieces of information here. You have Josh and you have Sean. You have two people or two objects, okay? So one of these two objects they have not told you anything about, and that is Sean. You know nothing about Sean. So remember, we're going to use an X to represent him. So Sean is X. And then we need to translate to figure out what we're going to use for Josh. So Josh is, so that equals 2 years older than. That means whatever Sean is, and then add 2. Okay? The product of their ages. So they want me to take Sean and Josh, the numbers that represent their ages, multiply them together, and it should equal 624. Okay? So let's go ahead and solve this. So I'm going to distribute. X times x is x squared. X times 2 is positive 2x. And then I'm going to need to subtract this 624 because I see I have an x squared. And now all of this equals 0. So I'm ready to solve this with an x puzzle. So negative 624 on top. And then on bottom I have a positive 2. So I need to find some pretty big numbers here. I'm going to do, so I tell you, do some trial and error with your calculator. So if I did, let's see, 624 divided by 2, I know that it's even, but 2 and 312 are not going to add or subtract together to give me 2, okay? 624, let's try 8. Oh, 8 and 78, but they're not close enough yet, okay? 624 divided by 12, maybe? 12 and 52, not quite close enough to get to 2 if I add or subtract them. So let's do 624 divided by 20. Okay, so that did not come out to a whole number, so I can't use it. I just ignore the decimals. 624 divided by 22. Nope. 624 divided by 23. Okay, so I am just picking some numbers. And notice when I do by 23, the answer is now 27. They're really close together. 24 and 26. So I did trial and error with my calculator, okay? And I see 24 and 26 are 2 apart. Now, which one has to be subtracted to get this positive 2 on the bottom? And that would be the 24, okay? So if I set up these factors, x minus 24, x plus 26, and then I apply the zero product property, x equals negative 26. Now I want us to go back and answer the question. It says, how old is Josh? So which of these two numbers would you want to use? Hopefully you said this positive one, because Josh cannot be negative 26 years old. Okay. Age doesn't work that way. So we have to use this 24. Actually, I'm sorry, that's Sean. Sean is 24 years old. So let's plug this back in. If Sean is 24, then how old is Josh? I have to add 2. And so Josh is 26. Josh is 26, and that's my final answer. All right. I'm hoping that this helps get you prepared to complete your practice lesson. We are going to have one more lesson left after this for this unit. We're almost done with unit 6. All right. Until next time.